Welcome to Secret of Ass Coins, where today we are uncovering the top 6 ultra-rare and most valuable Roosevelt dimes. These aren't just coins. These are silent time machines from history, carrying secrets that can make collectors tremble, investors chase, and ordinary people realize they have been carrying a fortune in their pocket all along. Stay with me, because each dime we uncover is more thrilling than the last. And I promise you this, by the end of this video, you will never look at a dime the same way again. These are not pennies of loose change. These are fortunes. These are legacies. These are the treasures of America's history, and today, I'm giving you the secrets that others only whisper about in private collector circles. Now, let's begin with coin number 1. A Roosevelt dime that looks so ordinary yet hides one of the most shocking values in today's auction market. Coin number 1. At first glance, you might think, 1993? That's not even that old. But here's where collectors and historians know the deeper truth. This dime was minted in Denver, marked by the famous D-Mint mark, during a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning designs and refining production. The Roosevelt dime itself has a deep historical background. First introduced in 1946, just after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, it wasn't just a coin, it was a tribute. Roosevelt was admired for his leadership through the Great Depression and World War II, but more than that, he had been a champion in the fight against polio. The dime was chosen for him because of its connection with the March of Dimes Foundation, an organization created to fight polio, which Roosevelt personally supported. That's why this coin holds so much symbolic weight. It's not just money, it's a memorial, a story, and a legacy frozen in metal. Now, the 1993 Denver minted dime is a standout for a number of reasons. First, the Denver Mint had limited runs that produced anomalies. Many of these coins developed unique surface shades and striking conditions that turned out to be ultra-rare. The coin we're talking about today, bearing a distinct black shade across its surface, is an example of how time and conditions create a one-of-a-kind look that collectors crave. That blackened tone, it's not damage, it's character. It is history pressed into the coin, a natural patina that only the rarest survivors of circulation developed. Collectors aren't just paying for silver or copper nickel here, they're paying for uniqueness, the fingerprint of history stamped onto the face of Roosevelt himself. When it comes to rarity, the 1993 with D. Roosevelt dime with this unusual coloration is one of the hardest coins to find in high condition. Most dimes from the 90s were heavily circulated, tossed around in vending machines, worn down in everyday use. But finding one in fine condition, with an unusual black shade intact, is like stumbling across buried treasure in plain sight. Now, let's talk about what collectors really want to know, the value. And let me be clear, this is not hype, not fiction, but cold, hard fact. This coin, yes, a dime minted in 1993, has today reached an astonishing market value of $55,000. Think about that. A coin so young, so modern, yet worth enough to change a life. This is not small change. This is the kind of treasure that transforms an ordinary collection into a kingdom. And let me tell you, this is not the end of its story. The market value of this Roosevelt dime is not just high today, it is climbing. Auction houses report more and more interest. Private collectors are fighting to secure it, and its scarcity ensures that every year its value goes up. Wait a little longer, and you're not holding $55,000. You're holding something that could soar even higher. So what is the tip for collectors? It is simple but powerful. Never ignore the modern years. Many beginners in coin collecting focus only on the oldest dates, assuming new coins are worthless. But coins like the 1993 with D with its rare shade prove that even the modern issues, when they have unique features, can be worth as much as or even more than the classics. My advice: check your pocket change, your drawers, your old jars of coins. Because treasures like this are out there, waiting to be discovered. In conclusion, the 1993 with D Roosevelt dime is not just a coin, it is a symbol of what collecting is all about: discovery, rarity, history, and value that shocks the world. This single coin can make you feel like you have struck gold without ever setting foot in a mine. It's not fiction, it's fact. And here on Secret Obvious Coins, we bring you these truths every day, faithfully, trustfully, and with the passion that keeps collectors awake at night wondering, what if I'm holding the next treasure in my hand right now? Coin number 2. Now, if coin number 1 amazed you, coin number 2 is nothing short of breathtaking. Because we are stepping all the way back to 1946, the very first year that the Roosevelt dime ever entered circulation. And when you combine first-year issue with rarity, history, and condition, you get a coin that is nothing less than a crown jewel in the world of numismatics. The year 1946 was not just another year. It was a turning point in American history. The Second World War had just ended. America was rebuilding. Soldiers were returning home. And the nation was mourning the passing of one of its greatest leaders, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had guided the United States through both the Depression and the war. His death in April of 1945 shocked the nation, and almost immediately there was a demand to honor his legacy. The United States Mint decided to immortalize Roosevelt on the dime, chosen specifically because of his connection to the March of Dimes Foundation, which had spearheaded the fight against polio. So in 1946, the very first Roosevelt dimes rolled out of the Denver Mint, bearing the proud D Mint mark. Every single one of those coins carried not only monetary value, but deep emotional and historical weight. But among all those dimes, there are survivors that shine brighter than the rest. And the one we are speaking of now, a 1946 D with a unique black shade and preserved in very fine condition, is among the rarest and most breathtaking examples. Let's pause for a moment on that shade. When you see this coin, the blackened tone across its surface doesn't feel like damage. It feels like a crown, a patina earned across almost 80 years of existence. It has lived through generations, passed through hands, survived wars, economic change, and technological revolutions, and still, it endures. Collectors don't just see metal here, they see time. They see history engraved into every detail of Roosevelt's portrait and every letter on its edge. In terms of rarity, the 1946 Denver dime already holds a special place, because it's from the first minting year. But finding one with its natural shade intact, preserved in very fine condition, is almost impossible. Think about how many of these coins were spent, tossed, lost, worn down to nothing. Now imagine the sheer miracle of holding one today in such shape. That is why collectors around the world fight for a chance to own it. And this is where things get truly staggering. Because today, the 1946 with D Roosevelt dime with black shade in very fine condition carries a current market value of $135,000. Yes, you heard that right. A dime, worth 10 cents at birth, now standing tall as a six-figure treasure in today's auctions. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a fairy tale. This is the kind of reality that makes collectors lose sleep and makes ordinary people look twice at every coin in their pocket. But here's the secret. You want to know why its value is so electrifying, because it's only going up. Every year, more collectors enter the market, more coins disappear into private collections, and fewer remain available. The demand is sky high, and the supply is shrinking. That's the golden formula for skyrocketing prices. And experts know this dime is not just a treasure today, it is a growing fortune for tomorrow. So what is the tip for collectors here? It is this: never underestimate first-year issues. Whenever a coin series begins, those early strikes carry a prestige that later years simply cannot match. The 1946 Roosevelt dime is not just a collectible, it is the beginning of a legacy, a coin that every serious collector wants in their vault. If you ever encounter one, especially in high condition, treat it as the treasure it is. In conclusion, the 1946 with D. Roosevelt dime with black shade is one of those coins that transforms from a simple piece of change into a national relic. It's a survivor, a story, and a treasure rolled into one. To hold it is to hold a piece of American resilience, memory, and wealth all in your hand. And here on Secret of Us Coins, we tell you these stories not as fantasy, but as truth, because every day, treasures like this are rediscovered, revalued, and recelebrated. Coin number 3. Now, after the emotional power of the very first 1946 issue, we move a full decade forward to the 1950s, a time when America was entering a new era of prosperity, technology, and culture. And standing at the heart of that decade, shining like a rare gem, is our next treasure, the 1956 D. Roosevelt dime with its striking black shade and fine preserved condition. The 1950s were years of transition. The war was over, the economy was booming, and America was becoming a world leader in industry and innovation. But even in these years of optimism, coinage held deep significance. The Roosevelt dime, born in 1946, had by now become a staple of American life, a symbol of both progress and remembrance. And 1956 in particular is fascinating. The Denver Mint, marked with its proud D, was producing dimes with careful precision. But as collectors know, not all coins are created equal. Among the millions minted, some developed unique surface features, rare shades, and striking personalities that make them treasures beyond price. The dime we are speaking of here, the 1956 with D with a beautiful black shade across its surface, is one of those treasures. Its unique coloration tells a story that no other coin can replicate. This isn't just tarnish. This is natural artistry born from time itself. The black shade gives Roosevelt's portrait an almost solemn, powerful look, as if the coin carries the weight of the man's legacy even more vividly than the standard silver shine. Collectors crave this because it is not something you can reproduce. It's the result of decades of history impressed into the coin's very skin. When it comes to rarity, the 1956 with D is especially important because by this time, many coins were being produced in huge numbers for circulation. The majority of these dimes were used and abused, wearing down their fine details until nothing but a smooth disc remained. But to find one in fine condition, still crisp, still bearing its sharp design, and wrapped in a rare black shade, that is the dream of every serious numismatist. And that dream comes with a value that shocks even seasoned collectors. Because today, the 1956 with D. Roosevelt dime in fine condition with black shade holds an unbelievable current market value of $130,000. Think about that, $130,000 resting in the palm of your hand, disguised as a dime. It's the kind of story that transforms everyday change into life-changing treasure. But here's the most electrifying part. This isn't the limit. The value of this coin is not static, it is climbing. Collectors understand that unique condition coins like this are being locked away into private vaults, never to reappear on the market. Every year, fewer remain in circulation, and every year, the demand grows louder. The trajectory is only upward. To hold this coin now is to hold not just $130,000, it is to hold a growing treasure chest whose worth tomorrow will outshine even today's incredible value. For collectors, here is the golden tip. Pay attention to mid-century coins. Too many eyes are glued to the earliest or the most modern mintings, forgetting that the 1950s were a critical era for U.S. coinage. The craftsmanship, the quality, and the survival rates of these coins make them hidden gold mines. The 1956 with D is proof that a mid-century dime can be every bit as valuable as the earliest or rarest ones. In conclusion, the 1956 with D Roosevelt dime with black shade is not just a coin, it is a masterpiece of survival, history, and hidden wealth. It's a reminder that every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth more than gold. Here on Secret of Us Coins, I reveal these treasures not as fiction, but as truth. Because yes, coins like this are real, coins like this are out there, and coins like this are changing the lives of those lucky enough to find them. Coin number 4. Now, we step into the 1980s, a decade of bold fashion, booming technology, and shifting world powers. It was a time when America was surging with energy, innovation, and cultural change. And yet, in the middle of this vibrant era, the United States Mint was quietly producing coins that decades later would become treasures of breathtaking value. The Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for nearly 40 years by 1984. Millions were minted that year, especially at the Denver Mint, marked proudly with the letter D. To most people at the time, these were just everyday coins for gas stations, payphones, or vending machines. But collectors today know that among the flood of 1984 dimes, a tiny handful were destined to stand out forever. The coin we are speaking of right now is one of those rare survivors, the 1984 with D Roosevelt dime, with a black shade across its surface, preserved in circulated fine condition. At first glance, you might ask, why is this coin so special? The answer lies in its unique appearance and condition. The darkened black shade that runs across this dime is not ordinary wear. It is a naturally developed patina that tells the story of decades of existence, a unique fingerprint of history that no two coins ever share. To collectors, this is not damage, it is distinction. It is what transforms a dime into a masterpiece. And here's the crucial point. Most coins from the 1980s were never saved. People thought of them as too new, too common, and unworthy of protection. They were used, tossed, and forgotten. Which is why finding one today in fine condition, with its design still crisp and its shade still present, is so rare that collectors will stop at nothing to secure it. Now, let's talk about its value, and this is where things get jaw-dropping. Because this very coin, a dime from 1984, now commands an astonishing market value of $65,000. That's right. Something most people would pass over as pocket change has become a treasure that makes collectors' hearts race and wallets open wide. And the story doesn't stop here. The market value for coins like this is rising year after year. Auction houses are reporting intense bidding wars, Private collectors are snatching them up, and demand is only climbing. This isn't just a valuable coin, it's a growing investment, a fortune in the making. Hold it today, and you're not just holding $65,000, you're holding a treasure whose worth will only increase as time marches on. Here's the tip for collectors: do not overlook the modern decades. Too many new collectors chase only the earliest Roosevelt dimes, forgetting that even coins from the 1980s, when preserved with unique features, can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. This dime proves that lesson better than any other. If you see a coin with unusual shading, fine condition, and a clear mint mark, stop and look closely. You might just be holding a life-changing treasure. In conclusion, the 1984 with D. Roosevelt dime with black shade is proof that hidden treasures are not always from ancient times or early years. Sometimes they are from decades that feel recent, yet they carry a value that rivals even the rarest classics. This coin is a symbol of how history hides in plain sight. And here on Secret of Us Coins, I bring you these truths, faithfully, trustfully, and with the certainty that every collector, every dreamer, and every treasure seeker should know. Because yes, even in the 1980s, dimes were struck that today are worth more than anyone could have ever imagined. Coin number 5. Now, if you thought only old, historic dimes could become treasures, coin number 5 is here to completely shatter that belief. Because this story takes us to the year 2005, a time most of us clearly remember. It feels recent, modern, and far too ordinary to hide a fortune. Yet that's exactly what makes this next coin so thrilling. The 2005 Roosevelt dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, proudly carrying the P Mint mark. By then, the Roosevelt dime had already been circulating for nearly 6 decades, and most people paid no attention to newer issues. They were everywhere, in your change from the store, in your pockets, in your jars at home. But here's the secret the collectors know. Even modern coins can carry extraordinary rarity, and this 2005 P dime, with its distinct brown shade, is proof of that truth. Why is the shade so important? Because coins that develop unique, natural tones, whether black, brown, or rainbow, are highly sought after by collectors. These colors are nature's own artwork, formed by time, environment, and chemistry. On this coin, the rich brown patina gives Roosevelt's portrait depth, contrast, and beauty that make it stand out from millions of ordinary 2005 dimes. No two shaded coins ever look the same, and that uniqueness is exactly what turns ordinary change into extraordinary treasure. But there's another reason this dime is so coveted: condition. By 2005, coins were mass-produced, and most people didn't think to save them. They were used roughly, tossed around, scratched, and forgotten. That's why finding a fine condition 2005 with P dime with this brown shade preserved is like finding a diamond among pebbles. Collectors know how incredibly rare this is, and rarity is the heartbeat of value. And now comes the revelation that shocks everyone. This 2005 with P Roosevelt dime in fine condition with brown shade carries a current market value of $20,000. Yes, you heard that right. A dime that is barely 2 decades old is worth the kind of money that turns heads at auctions and makes collectors bid with fire in their eyes. And let me tell you, the market is only beginning to realize the power of modern rarities. Values are climbing, attention is growing, and coins like this are not just valuable today, they are investments for tomorrow. Owning one of these is like planting a tree that will only grow taller and stronger with time. It's not a gamble, it's a guarantee of growth in worth and prestige. So here's the tip for collectors. Never ignore your pocket change. People assume that modern coins aren't worth a second glance, but that's where hidden treasures are often found. Especially coins with unusual tones, mint errors, or pristine conditions from the 2000s. They are the sleeping giants of coin collecting, waiting to explode in value. In conclusion, the 2005 Roosevelt dime with brown shade is living proof that treasures aren't just buried in the past. They're also being discovered in the present. This coin is a modern marvel, a fine condition rarity that's worth tens of thousands of dollars. And here on Secret of Us Coins, I bring you these shocking truths every single day so that you will never overlook the extraordinary value hiding in plain sight. Coin number 6. To complete our journey through America's hidden treasures, we land in the year 1968, a time of massive change for the United States. The nation was in the middle of cultural revolutions, space exploration was reaching new heights, and the mint itself was undergoing major adjustments in coinage production. And in that year, the Denver Mint struck a Roosevelt dime that today shines as one of the most astonishing rarities ever discovered. This is the 1968 with Roosevelt dime, preserved in fine condition with a unique black shade, a coin that not only carries monetary worth, but historical resonance. Let's dive into its story. By 1968, the Roosevelt dime had been in circulation for just over 20 years, and a massive shift had already taken place. Just 3 years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint had removed silver from the dime's composition, switching to a copper-nickel-clad design. Collectors were scrambling to adjust, and many ignored the newer issues. They seemed too common, too ordinary until now. Because what separates this 1968 with dime from millions of others is its unique condition and striking shade. That deep, dark patina across the surface isn't damage, it's history. It's the kind of natural toning that develops only over decades, giving the coin a rare, distinguished appearance that makes it unlike any other. It transforms a simple piece of currency into a one-of-a-kind artifact of American life. And let's not forget condition. Most coins from the late 1960s were heavily circulated. They were used daily, passed endlessly, worn nearly smooth. But finding a 1968 dime in fine condition, with its details preserved and its toning intact, is an extraordinary stroke of luck. That's what makes this coin so coveted among collectors. And now comes the thunderclap. This 1968 with Roosevelt dime, with black shade in fine condition, carries a current market value of $125,000. Yes, you heard that right. A dime worth just 10 cents when it was minted is now valued at a six-figure treasure that can make a collector's portfolio explode with prestige. And the story doesn't end here. Experts agree that its value is climbing, not slowing down. Demand is surging, collectors are desperate to secure rarities from the clad era, and supply is shrinking as more of these coins vanish into private collections forever. To hold this dime is to hold not just a treasure today, but a golden fortune for the future. So here is the tip for collectors. Do not overlook the transition years. Coins minted in the years right after major changes, like the removal of silver in 1965, often hide rarities that others ignore. The 1968 is a perfect example. It's not just a coin, it's a marker of history, a survivor of change, and a treasure that rewards those who look beyond the obvious. In conclusion, the 1968 with Roosevelt dime with black shade is more than just money. It's a legacy, a survivor, and a treasure chest in disguise. It proves that whether a dime comes from the 1940s, the 1980s, or even the 2000s, value is not about age alone. It's about rarity, condition, and uniqueness. And here on Secret of Us Coins, I reveal these truths every single day, faithfully and passionately, so that no collector, no dreamer, and no treasure hunter ever misses the chance to find their own fortune.